What's up, boys and girls? Lambo here with another Pepega Tuesday replay analysis video where I analyze my subscribers' replays and give them tips and tricks on how to improve. In today's video, we're gonna have a ZvT Masters Plus replay in the first game against BattleMech. Then the second game is gonna be, I believe, a Gold League ZvT where someone tries to use my 9 Roach, and we're talking a little bit. I look at more general advice, and in the last game we have a very interesting 3.3k, I believe he said, ZvP, which looked much higher level to me actually, at least the way the Zoic has played it against Colossus, so I hope there is something in it for you guys to learn in all of those games. And yeah, let's get right into it. Enjoy. The first replay of today is from Mars Bar. He said, lost versus a BattleMech player today. Felt like I took okay fights, but I like a proper plan against this type of playstyle. Any tips would be helpful. Last 10 minutes is just a slow death animation. Pepper hands. Okay. Versus Micro Jackson. So let's see it. It's mostly a game plan that you're missing, so the game plan... we can take a look at what exactly you're doing and what game plan I would suggest you do. I think in general against BattleMech especially, I think you... Okay, we're gonna turn that down. I think in general against BattleMech, the plan that I would go with is just make a high drone count and try to only then engage if your opponent is out in the open. And just always try to go for surrounds. Unless you're going for infestors, then you can just straight up take fights every time you get a funnel. Then just make sure you outmine him. So if he expands at a very rapid rate, start killing external bases. I think that's a high level game plan. If you're lower level, which I know my spar now isn't, but let's say you're platinum or something and your opponent plays BattleMech, just try to trade once you're max. That's a completely fine game plan to have with like RavagerBane. Alright. Your opponent is opening 3 factories before. You realize that there was a hole here, right? You must have. But you just blocked yourself in with those evos. Alright. Let the evos finish. Okay, this is a very bad early game, actually, very bad. So let's start at the, for you guys, very often the most important part, which is the early game. First of all, you shouldn't have 21 here and 12 here and take double gas on this space. If you have 21 drones here, the double gas should be going here. Alright? I hope that makes sense. Second of all, you need to have your eyes in the TVZ early game on the minimap, and this will never, ever, ever, ever happen. That your queens are just this far out of position. I will show you when you should realize that the Hellions are going to the left. Now, we're in your vision right now. You realize the Hellions go towards the left. This overlord, by the way, should be here, so you can see both entrances. So, where do we position our queens right now? Well, we could bring them here. Right? So we can respond. If we see the Hellions come here, we can respond up here, down here. Both options are fine. If you have the queens here, you need to be super on point with the way you have your overlord position to have them down here in time for when the Hellions arrive. Having them here has the advantage of being able to zone them out from the right side entirely. They're never gonna run like this. So if they go here, they might go like this. So having the queens here also makes sense. It will enable your cruiser towards the right being better, but I think you just didn't put any thought in it and were AFK with the queens, which is not good. So just in the early game, the most important part that allows you to just make drones and hold everything is having your queens in position. And everything you could do is you could split them 2 and 2. Then you could react if he comes in here with moving all the queens here. You should see this with this overlord, as I said before, but this is not that scary anyways. Especially if you have 2 queens here and here. So you see the Hellions now, and you don't react immediately, which is bad. You're even stutter stepping towards the Viking. You're gonna get the Viking, but this is not good. If you made a full wall here, could have been okay. To be honest, it still wouldn't have been okay because these drones, it might have even been worse. Because you simply don't have enough Zerglings to have the Zerglings on their own. fighting against the Hellions. So your fight with the Zerglings was fantastic. The micro was very good. Very good. You got like almost maximum amount of... or you baited out a maximum amount of Hellion shots, honestly. Then the second part of this, what went wrong entirely here, is the fact that you didn't just run away with the drones. You need to run away with the drones, and then you can start splitting. But then, by the time the Terran player sees that there are no drones here, he needs to decide to go here or here with the Hellions, so you can run away a little bit further, and that buys time for the queens to come here. Also, your bases should be connected. So a lot of different things went entirely wrong here. If you notice you're completely out of position, by the way, and the Hellions run in here, you can put the queen in on the ramp and transfer the drones towards the main. And then that will buy time for these. It's always better to lose some manning time than to lose a lot of drones. And you might not even need to engage with the Zerglings. If you're not sure that you have the queen perfectly positioned in the middle and the Hellions might squeeze through, put the links behind the queen in the main base. So a lot of things that you could have done there, which you didn't. Also, obviously, like these were entirely useless. In any way, shape, or form, you needed one here, if anything. If you force the Hellions to go all the way around, you can run away then with the drones and even escape to your natural very often. But the Evo Chamber needs to be here. This is useless. Okay. So you obviously realize that it's Mech now, which is fine. This is very rough. Your opponent loses his benches, that's good. So the way you punish this, by the way, is you have a control group of just a couple of banelings, like 10 banelings. You obviously didn't have the units for it now, but you don't even need any roaches against this kind of stuff. You have 10 banelings and you just flank from behind. Nothing you can do with cycling Hellion. That's why you don't see this on pro level, that they do this early in the game. Because just Link Bane completely counters it. These Banelings, you obviously need them here right now, because you literally have no units, since your early game was bad, but just go all the way around. They will stay here for a while, they will try to poke at the queens, you have a lot of transfuse energy, so they're not gonna die immediately. This early into the game, usually Terran does not have mech field, but this guy went 2 base mech field, which is quite insane. Either way, coming from behind is the weakness of Hellion Cyclone, because Hellion Cyclone does damage over time with the lock-ons. But when they're forced to fight, they get like 1 lock-on in, maybe 2 in a fight, whereas all your Ling Bane crushes in. Hellion Cyclone sucks in that scenario. That's why you can go up to high drone counts, like much higher than you can against Bio initially, because Bio can actually have pressure, Mech can't. That's a massive difference between Mech and Bio. Like this is not an army that can ever kill you unless you, I don't know, make, like even with Roach Ravager, even if you don't flank and just go Roach Ravager, I think even then you can't die. Maybe if you make mass Hydras, Hydra Corruptor like Loco, then you can die, although I'm not sure if you made that against Terran or against Protoss. Oh, this is big. Okay. What? Oh my god. You got the minimum amount of SCVs there. I swear to God. You were looking at it as well.
Our forces are under attack. Mutation complete.
Okay, 5 more SCVs survived here than they should, and these also should not have all gotten away. But it's fine. We're in a good position now. Immediately more drones right now, and a 5th base. You need a 5th base. You need a very early 5th base against Mech because you want to mine minerals. You want to mine 5 full mineral lines, pretty much. Because your army is very mineral heavy. You don't need more than 8 gas, actually. I mean, unless you want to go the Spire and Broodlords and stuff, but that should not be the case. I think your game plan, back to the initial problem that Myspire seemed to have, should be you get map control of the entire map with creep, and whenever he moves out, you try to just kill this with a surround. And if he just doesn't move out, you can just start eventually running into bases with Ling Bane. But first, try to establish map control with creep, a lot of bases, some overlord split, which is not literally non-existent. You're super blind. Even just having a unit here and a unit here closes the entire map. Like if you have just units at these crucial locations, you can't just miss an entire army. There could be an entire army just going in here now, locking on to the hatchery and running away, right? So yeah, that's not great. Oh, it's exactly what happened, by the way. I did not recognize that this army actually, or I didn't realize that this army actually was there. But yeah. And now this Alien run by is coming in. Imagine having vision here, right? And now our lead all of a sudden is gone because our drone count is gone and we didn't take a 5th base. Or well, we tried to, but we lost it. And now we take a very bad... See this... If look at this army. Just imagine you have the banelings coming in from behind. This immediately dies. But you need to also engage with the front if you come from behind with the banelings. But try to maybe circle a little bit further around. You also obviously saw it with this. So if you have a lot of Ling Bane, you do not ever need to fight. Just remember that whenever he stands like this, it's over for him. You can come entirely from behind and he's dead. But whenever he can kite back, just go back with the flank and you're entirely fine. Like, just remember that the Terran is the one that can't fight whenever he approaches the high ground like this. And this was the worst time flank of all time. You flanked here and then you run back with the main army. Which the entire point of this flank is to make him have to stand there and fight, or at least split up a little bit. And we are also not following my usual advice of against Mech, go to 90 to 100 drones. That's actually the number one thing that I tell you guys every single time. Every single time I analyze the Mech replay, go to 90 to 100 drones. And you have the money to make extra hatcheries. You can just take hatch, if you want hatch, mine these minerals out. You have one macro hatch, could pop down 2 extra macro hatchers. If you can't spend the money with this amount of drones, because you're not a pro gamer with inject, just make a couple of macro hatcheries. Eventually we'll always be able to at least get towards max supply with this. And if you're floating a little bit of money for the remix, that's no issue. Just mining the map as early as possible, taking away the resources very fast so you can focus on other things. And establishing map control through expansions is very important, because once the hatchery is done, you can start putting static defenses there, and it's a lot easier to defend the full HP hatchery than one that's just building. Okay, so now this is a fantastic fight, especially if you had Ling Bane. It's still a fantastic fight. This was phenomenal. So as I said, as a comeback mechanic, I said that in a previous Pepega Tuesday, Infestors are very good against Cyclones, especially on this level. They're always gonna get fungal at some point. And imagine you would have had 100 drones mining throughout all of this. You would have had a couple less roaches, which roaches are entirely useless. And you would have... You could have been maxed now basically with a bank if you played it properly. Which is now not the case. If you have this resources lost against a Mech Terran, you need to be winning. You need to be winning. If you're not winning with this resources lost, that means that you're not mining enough. That was just a donation right there. Yeah, I think the game plan for you guys, and I told this so many times that I almost don't want to say it anymore, against any kind of mech, is to just go Ravager Ling Bane on a high drone count, but you guys never do it a single time, so I don't know if you guys tried it and it didn't work. But every time you guys send me replays, you guys don't actually try it, or if you try it, you don't actually make the drone count, or you run into like a super fortified position. This base, free to kill with Ling Bane. This base, free to kill with Ling Bane. This base, free to kill with Ling Bane. This base has a bunker with 3 marines in it. It's free to kill with Ling Bane. So killing exposed bases with Ling Bane is part of this strategy as well. Yeah, the entire point is basically outmining your opponent as Zerg on higher levels, and it's just not happening in the games that I'm watching from you guys. And I don't like the Brood Lords unless your opponent literally has 20 tanks, because with Ravager Ling Bane you can keep killing bases unless your opponent actually has like 20 plus tanks, at which point then you can try to transition into a couple of Broodlords. But yeah. So to summarize, game plan, I'm gonna say this again. 90 drones. If you guys can't handle 100 to spend your money, or if you feel bad about it, make 90. Expand to all the bases, at least on your half of the map, very early on. Play Ravager Lingbane, way less Roaches, way more Lingbane. Fight from multiple angles if you want to take a fight. If your opponent's ever out in the open, feel free to just fight. It's always going to be fine. Even if it kind of looks bad, the Terran units are super expensive, so it's not actually that bad. So fight if the Terran moves out. Fight if there are exposed bases. If your opponent actually expands at a similar pace to you, there's going to be exposed bases. So try to kill those with whatever seems efficient to you. So Lingbane, for example. So you might be wondering, but if he has Hellion Cyclone, can't he just go here with the Lingbane? While you're attacking a base with Lingbane, let's say this is a planetary, right? With Lingbane, the beauty is you only need like 20-30 supply of Lingbane to kill a planetary. So if you have 20-30 supply here, and he goes there with the Hellion Cyclone, he will, 1, need to micro it, which requires attention, and 2, go there with more supply than your Lingbane. So the rest of your army, while you're doing this, can start poking forward. If you see the Hellion Cyclone, you can go back. The Zerg army is very fast. You can just go back and forth and you can decide where to take the fights. That's the strengths of Zerg that you guys are not using at all. You guys are not splitting your army in 2, basically ever. You guys are not trying to kill bases. And well, the unit composition is slightly wrong. That's not the biggest of deals though. The biggest deal here was really, early game was a little bit shit, but after that you were actually in a fine position. It was mostly the fact that you didn't have the correct economy. You also are mining way too much gas for how little you're mining. Look, if you have a bank like this, pull the drones off gas, please. If you're not saturated already on your mineral lines, which is not the case. So these drones should go here. These drones should go there. These drones should go here, right? And respread creep also very important as BattleMech. I think we covered it all. The next replay is going to be from Fungus. And he said, the sadness. Gold League hero attempted the 9 Roach. Messed it up at the start, but thought it still took the lead. Wondering how I should have capitalized. Okay.
Good luck, have fun, and beat him, probably.
Alright, so this is a 9 Roach opener that I just made a guide on. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to be executed. Saludos desde Francia. This obviously means I did not have any Spanish. I assume this is Spanish. Hello from France, obviously. Okay, drone, so far so good. Yes, 21 drone, double queen, double ling. Okay, good. Alright. Now double overlord. Nope. Okay, okay. Okay, we're good, we're good. 1 roach and now 9 roaches. Wow. Very cool. This should have been a... this needs to be a creep tumor. Yes, yes. You don't need a 3rd queen this early, because you can't spend the extra lava you're gonna get from it anyway, so you just take this instead. Your opponent's playing 2-1-1, okay. We were kind of AFK there, mentally, with the roaches. Alright. Yeah. You're definitely taking the lead, especially if you're making a run of... Ooh, we're making 24 Zerglings. Okay, how to capitalize off this attack? First of all, if you kill your opponent's army with this attack, we do not need Zerglings. We do not need Zerglings. You get the lead from making drones and then mining more than your opponent. Because at first, what happens with this build is at first you mine less than your opponent. Or less than what you're supposed to against a Terran player. Whereas your opponent at first mines the same. And then you do the damage, right? And then you overtake the Terran, so then you mine that much more than... So it should balance to your favor, right? It should tip the scales to your favor. Whereas because you're making this, first of all, you need to not focus too much on the micro because you didn't really micro to begin with. So it's very important to spend your money, and that should be your priority number one. Never float larva. This goes for not only this game but in general. In TVZ, very important to not be indecisive with the larva. Always just make drones. If you're not sure, just always make drones. This was hilarious from both players. Probably should have focus fired the marines there first. But this is very good. So yeah, you have 9 drones right now, and you're not sure, I guess, what to make, or maybe you didn't select them. But 100% of the time with this build, you make more drones than this. Like, you just killed all of his units, right? What are you afraid of? What do you need the Zerglings for? The answer is you shouldn't be afraid of anything. You don't need the Zerglings for anything. You can't even have Hellions, so yeah, you really don't need them. You also rallied the Zerglings towards the mineral line, so it might have been a misclick. And now 900 minerals. So yeah, don't focus on the micropyre too much with this build. It definitely did get you into a good position, but it should have been a game-ending position. Again, 5 roaches, not good, not good. You have more than enough units at home already. Make sure to just use drones at first. While you're doing this roach attack, just blindly make drones, and make sure that your mind doesn't even think about it, right? And yeah, just value the macro higher than the micro part. Especially around this level, it's very important. So yeah, like number one thing I can tell you from this replay is spend your larva. And if you're ever unsure as to what units you make, you tend to make army units. And that's the wrong thing to have. Make drones first. Always drones first. In a crisis mode, especially against Terran, you pull all the queens to the front, and you can also make extra queens if you're unsure. But you really never need this amount of this amount of units. You don't need for anything. This is way too many units. Should have been drones. But we're still ahead, so let's take a look at how the rest of this went. Okay, now we're making drones. That's good. I have a lot of money still in the bank, so you should probably expand further. Okay. You forgot to hotkey this hatchery. I was wondering. Okay, this was just a mechanical error. If you had this hotkeyed and you made the Zerglings off of this is kind of cool. I like the double upgrade and the baiting nest. The transition is fine. Easily from watching this for a little bit, I can tell you right now that that build got you ahead, yes, but you don't need to try and refine the follow-up too much. Just learn to make drones afterwards for a little bit until you have like 60 or so, and then learn to spend your money. So the most important parts about this replay is 1, try to focus purely on always spending your larva right away. And what will happen then, that's going to be the next step, is you're going to be floating a lot of money, even more money than you have right now, and you already can't spend your money. So then after you make sure that you always spend your larva, so just make sure you spend your larva in the early game for like a couple of days, right? And then for the next half week or so, you focus on purely spending your money to never float money. And the spending your larva thing should still be a thing, right? It should still be included, but you're not gonna need to focus on it anymore. So instead, you will focus on spending your money any way possible. Just make extra queens. I don't care if you have 20 queens, and that's why you spend your money, or you have a 4th base and you have 3 extra macro hatcheries. Just having the money used up in something is always better than having it in the bank. And that's the very important part about getting better in the... Or that's the fastest way of getting better, is getting better macro in StarCraft. So I think the follow-up idea was good. Going melee and carapace and a bending nest, all good. Only issue was macro, also just not hotkeying the hatch. I mean, that's just game specific, right? You just forgot about that. I'm sure that won't happen every game. So yeah, and then the third thing is value drones a little bit higher than not making drones, but if you just fix the other two things, eventually you will figure out how many drones you can make and so on and so forth. Okay, any questions about that in the chat? If you're floating that much money, would you recommend another hatch in the main or a new base location? Probably both. Probably both. I'm still new, so I appreciate and enjoy the build. That's awesome. You're pretty good for a new player.
Additional supply depots required.
Legit, if you made all of these into Zerglings, you would be winning this game. Yeah, you have 1-1 and he doesn't have combat shields. So if you had this hatchery hotkit, you would be winning, for sure. So the last replay today is from Tonberry, and he said 3.3k NA Zerg. I was confused by his opening, made a bunch of units, but he was actually turtling. Was massively ahead later, but didn't know how to close out the game. What should my game plan be? I think I just tried a mixed bag of things. Okay. So this is what my ZvP early game guide is about, right? Just have units in front of their base, and then you never need to be afraid. I really dislike making blind units. I think making blind drones is better in 90% of the cases. If you actually have map vision, especially. Okay. Okay, so your opponent opens Stalker, Zealot, Robo. We see it's 3 gas. Now he's taking a 4th. Obviously, you might not know that, but if a Protoss opens the Nexus first, this isn't even a Nexus first. If a Protoss opens anything with an early Nexus, like just a gate expand, Nexus first, whatever, they don't need a 3rd pylon for a very long time. So you don't actually need to leave this pillar, and I think in my guide I also told you guys to just not leave this pillar. Unless you guys really want the knowledge, but basically you can just see the robo and go back, because there's no 3rd pylon, right? And that's a basic number thing, but the Protoss just doesn't need extra pylons at this point in the game, so they don't have more than 2, more often than not. So you see the robo, and you should know that this is the only tech that he has. You could also know by the timing, but like right now I would go back to that pillar. Just a small thing. But you could know exactly now what's up, right? Instead of like this spore unnecessary, for example. Like it also can't be GTs right now, from what you've seen. Alright, he's doing... just taking the forward 3rd, and we're making roaches now because we thought that was a move out. That's okay. That happens. You need to, yeah, make sure to check for 3rd bases. I think you thought that this was always going to be the 3rd base, right? But it's not the case here. So we're getting Evo Chamber, more drones, decent macro. This Overlord is in a prime position to become an Overseer and Scout. Especially if you're confused by what your opponent is doing. Let's say you think he's on 2 base, right? Because you don't know that this is a possible 3rd base location. I would scout right now, because he might be... like, I don't know, around this MMI, he might be saving up Mass Phoenix. Who knows? You only saw as an Immortal. I don't think you saw the Archon yet. Might be wrong. Theoretically, you can always get all the information with Zerglings, but you guys don't have the multitasking for that at that level. So sending in an Overseer is what I said. Even though you might not see all the pro players do it immediately, it's good for you guys to do it the moment your lair is done, pretty much. Right? You're taking your gases too early and too many. With RavagerBane, you don't need 8 gas, first of all. But also, you should take these gases after you're fully saturated on the mineral lines. Okay. So I think the game plan around this level, because you asked specifically for the game plan, should be you max out and then you attack. It sounds very simple, but this is the most effective one, because you guys will have a hard time at understanding when power spikes happen in the game. For example, if I'm playing against a player with RavagerBane, I know that my power spike would be with the first couple of Vipers, right? And his power spike is right before my Vipers are out. Or likewise, if he goes for a delayed RavagerBane, like this guy, for example, I would be the strongest before he gets the second wave of Robo units from that. So before he gets 2 Colossus plus 2 disruptor, or 4 Colossus, or something like that, right? So that's where I would try to hit. Or I try to hit upgrade timings. But realistically, you guys don't actually always check your upgrades. So another thing that's very helpful, also if you completely disregarding of the fact that, okay, I'm outmining him for this long, now I should have this many more units. So you don't need to think about any of that stuff. If you guys just attack when you're maxed, that's also a smart thing to do, and very, very frequently, and start trading there, because at that point your army most likely will not get better or much better, whereas your opponent's army, since your opponent is not Zerg, will still get better because you're supposed to be maxed first, right? At the same time, even if he's maxed, it's still not a bad time to trade because your army is reaching somewhat of a peak. So what you're doing here is very good. So just start trading once you're maxed is fine. Obviously, you should have killed this, right? This is a free kill here, and you saw it as well. Let's see if you're gonna go there. Good, fantastic baning run by. Don't like that we let this. So like his army, if you look at it, it can never engage into a concave of you ever. He has no icons, and he used almost all of his storms. I'm not sure why I'm hovering over them and I don't see the amount of energy that they have, like I usually do, but he has one storm. So yeah, but now you're max again. I hope you attack again, which is exactly what you're doing. Could use some corrosive bites as well during the fight, but it's still very good. I like the way you're playing a lot. That was unlucky. There goes most of your lead. You're still in a really good position, if you can spend your money. So yeah, this is something I don't talk about very often, but camera movement during fights should be on your opponent's army. Not here. It should be here. It makes it a lot easier to call when to engage, disengage, how to micro. So don't have your arm, like your camera during this fight. Let's take a look at it again. Your camera is all over the place. So this is good. This screen right here was good. It's a lot of panicking going on, I think. You're barely seeing the units here. This Colossus is completely out of range and is gonna tank all the baning shots. Oh, you should not make corrupt, it's just more ravaging me. Okay, so, basically, a couple of reasons you lost this game. One of them is you lost 40 supply with the missed rally. Those expensive units as well. This is a very expensive army, just to show you guys. 6.5k, 9.2k. That's a lot. So yeah, if you lose like 3.7k resources just to a missed rally, that's too much. But after that, and after you were far enough ahead to still just kill his army, but you need to realize that you have a lot of money that's not spent yet. So instead of engaging right now, what you should do is you press your hatchery hotkey. You're making all of those 21 larvae into Zerglings, because those spawn the fastest, right? Because you want to defend this base. Now, theoretically, you killed a bunch of workers and you don't really need to defend this base. You could even sack it and go roaches if you want, but you could, like, 21 pairs of links is pretty expensive, and then you make all the links you already have into Bane links, and all you do with the Ravager is zone out the units and kite. And then you would still absolutely smack him. Completely one-sided domination. But you fight with half your army, and then some of your units spawn again, and then you fight again with half your army. And now you're making Corruptors, which Corruptors are not good against this army. Yeah, basically it was a spending money issue. Wait, I will show you how easy it would have been to clean up this army, because it's so small. This army is not good against Ravagerling Bane either. So you need to recognize right now that the moment you lose this army, the first thing you do is you need to rebuild. So I will resume right here from your point of view. And we do this, right? And this. And most of the, like, a lot of the money is gone. And then we can bring all the queens to the front. I don't have my hatchery hotkey now, but yeah, now we bring all the queens to the front. There's actually no way you will lose this fight, ever. And in this time, like, he can't even come here. Look, all the Zerglings have spawned. Just look at my army right now. This is the army you could have had. It's actually 0% chance you would have lost, no matter how you microed it. So, I actually think the way you played was really good. I don't think you even need a greater spire, but I like the drone count you went to. I like that you started engaging the moment you're maxed. I like that you used 2 control groups, one for a run by. I mean, the way you played right now, I've seen Elaser play worse games against Colossus, honestly, game plan wise, so that's not really the issue. It was more of a just losing half your army and then not using your money.